the meeting of the Veterinary Medical Board. Good morning, everyone. Jessica, can you call a roll, please?
Ms. Bowler?
Here.
Dr. Bradberry?
Here.
Ms. Key is absent today. Ms. Laredo?
Here.
Ms. Prado is also absent today. Dr. Solocito?
Here.
Dr. Noland has not joined us yet, and Dr. Nunez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Agenda item 18, Executive Management Reports. 18A, Administration.
Good morning, members. I'm Tim Rada, the Admin Licensing Manager. I'll be presenting the admin report. I'll give a brief staff update before turning it over to Karen Munoz and Harmony De Filippo. Sorry if I butchered your last name, our new budget analyst. So a quick staff update. We did have our receptionist, Kelly Harris, accept a promotional opportunity with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. So she left us on August 25th. However, we did immediately start recruitment efforts, and we do have a new receptionist named Rachel who is beginning on November 1st. So that is a positive movement for us. And additionally, we have a BCP out there to get a new policy analyst to help implement AB 1282 and the blood bank provisions. And that has been submitted to agency for their review, and I believe it's there now. But now I'd like to turn it over to our budgets for their part. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Harmony, and I am the budget analyst with Department of Consumer Affairs, and I'm going to walk through attachment 1 and attachment 2 with you today. If you could please flip to the next page on the slide.
Can you give us the ability to share documents?
Yes, and is this Timothy that needs to be able to share the screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, hold on just a moment. Okay. You're now the presenter, Timothy.
Thank you. Sorry, one moment. Let's see. Okay, can you see this now?
Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Timothy. So the first document that I'm going to speak to here is the expenditure projection report. This includes prior year history as well as...
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Is it really small for everybody else as well?
This is the moderator. It can be made bigger. There's a magnifying glass with a plus sign to the left of your screen, Timothy. You should be able to click on that and increase the size.
Or Tim, are you able to do a full screen for that document? There we go. And then if you can increase the size using that.
Sorry about that. I'm using multiple screens and have a big monitor.
If you can continue to make it bigger.
How's that?
Okay, is that better for everyone? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this here is your expenditure projection report. And over here on the right, you have your 2020-21 actuals. So this is kind of an overview of your expenditures. And if you could scroll down a little bit, Timothy, please. You can see here that the overall expenditures is about $4.9 million of the budget, with a approximately 1.4 million left over with a 21.9% reversion back to the budget. Do I have any questions on the expenditures before I move on to the fund condition? Okay. So I'm going to go down to the attachment 2. Timothy, if you scroll for me, please. Thank you. So here is our fund condition. I'm going to speak to the first column, prior year, which is your actuals for 2020-21. You can see here that the beginning balance was approximately 2.9 million with no adjustments. Below that is an overview of the revenue. So we had a total of approximately 1.6 million in revenue. And then down below, you have your expenditures. And here your 1111 program expenditures of that 4.9 million, and that does include reimbursements. So the overall total expenditures, 5.3 million with a 5.2 million reversion with about 8.4 months for in reserve. The next column is current year 21-22, and you'll also see budget year and budget year +1. So these current year is our budget act. We are still in the process of making adjustments. So this is just an estimate at this time. So we have the beginning balance of approximately 5.2 million, estimated revenue of 7.5 million, and again, an estimated fund balance at the end of approximately 5.2 in reversion with an 8.5 months in reserve. And you'll kind of see for budget year and budget year +1, it is just projections at this point. And that's all I have for the fund condition. Does anybody have any questions?
Does the fund balance, is that counting for the money that was borrowed by the state that is going to be paid back? Is that included in the fund balance here?
So I'm actually going to refer to Karen and let her speak to that. Karen, are you on?
Hi, yes. Hi, good morning. Karen Munoz, the budget manager for the Department of Consumer Affairs Budget Office. There was actually no loan to the general fund from the board. There was a potential of a loan that you saw in the previous board meeting. However, what happened was that money was taken out and immediately returned due to savings in the no longer need to the general fund. So multiple boards and bureaus had that commitment for a loan to the general fund, but it got repaid immediately. So we don't see that on our fund condition.
That's because the fund condition looks pretty good. So that's good news. Thanks.
Right. You're welcome. And I will just reiterate that current year and budget year, we're still in the process of making adjustments for building of the governor's budget for 22-23. So there will be some adjustments. You're going to see those in the next at the next board meeting. But those are our annual adjustments. So we have employee comp, retirement, the GSI. You see a line item on the fund condition for the GSI, but that's just an estimate at this stage. So all of this will become final after the governor's budget release January 10th to finalize the current year budget, as well as making budget year 22-23 a little bit more
And none of
sustained.
this includes the that budget change proposal for the blood bank program. Is that show in our fund, or is that a separate? Is that a hidden column somewhere?
So you will see no potential increases to appropriation until something is approved through the governor's budget. So at this stage, there are no increases to the board's budget based on any future budget change proposals.
Will that be, will that have its own line so we can separate it out from the rest of our budget items?
If there is an approved budget change proposal for the board, you will see that next year at your next board meeting, but that would have to go through the approval process. There's several different approval processes that happen. So it will not, unless something becomes public, it doesn't show up on your fund condition. So at this time, we don't have any
But if it
estimations for any budget change proposals.
Yeah, if it is approved, where will we see it? Will there be a new line on the budget for it, or is it going to be?
If there's anything approved in the current year, it would be rolled up in your current year. If it's anything approved in the budget year, it will actually be rolled up into the budget year approval, so that you would find it. You would actually see a total dollar amount in the 1111 line item. So right now for budget year, we show $6.8 million. If anything is approved in the governor's budget, that number will that number will increase or decrease depending on the budget change proposal that's being expressed.
So it'll be an 11.
Right. Yes, we could, if there's any time you want us to separate those adjustments, we can do that for ease of, just if you guys want to see a little bit more transparency. But they are also yeah, so we can do that on a for transparency. We can separate those line items for settings like this.
Yeah, so it will be on the fund condition, but will it be on the other document, the one that says budget report?
The expenditure report above,
Yes.
it will just increase the line item it impacts. So if you'll see the current year revised, so in 21-22, when these projections come out and you'll see a new budget for current year, whatever line item any future proposals impact, that line item will increase. So it's more as it just gets it flows into the actual budget and what specific line items they are. So the bottom line would tie to what says what the 1111 line item on your fund condition will be.
So it'll go under departmental services or something?
I wouldn't know what line item it actually would fall under at this
All
time.
right. I think it would be helpful to know if we got enough or if we're losing money with that program.
So any BCPs for positions would go under the personnel services because it's adding to our personnel expenditures.
Because I don't know if we really know exactly how much this is going to cost or not cost. So I just think it would be helpful for transparency reasons, to make it easy to identify how it's doing. That's it. I see Kathy's hand up. Kathy on the iPad and the phone. It says you're muted.
Hi.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. And I actually had a question earlier. Thank you, Mark, for asking about the loan, because that was going to be my question on that one sheet. But I couldn't get the little hand to go on. On the budget report, the expenditure projection, I had two questions. Where in that, and I know we reflect it later on, but where does the cost for the lawsuit, what line item do those costs go into? Attorney General, or is it a separate line item?
That would fall under the Attorney General cost for that expenditure. And then we break it out specifically in the enforcement report of the total cost of the lawsuit. Okay.
And then this is the year-end budget for 2020, fiscal year 2020 to 2021, but they're still making adjustments. Is that what this is? I just wanted to confirm that all this money left over is our unencumbered that we're typically not going to be spending.
Correct. So this is the close of the fiscal year, and so that the 21.9% goes back into our fund. So this is the final from last fiscal year.
And then last but not least, the under total expenditures, one of the last lines is unscheduled reimbursements. I just don't even remember what that is. I know it's something, but I just can't remember what goes in there.
So typically an unscheduled reimbursement. I'm sorry. Was someone responding?
No, that's okay. I just wasn't. No, yeah, it's fine. I just didn't know if you were still on. I want to make sure that you might be able to answer.
Right. So typically the unscheduled reimbursement, the unscheduled reimbursements usually fall under any kind of probation monitoring reimbursements that are collected from there. But usually it is anything that is not already scheduled. Most of the scheduled reimbursements are for fingerprints and so forth. So if there is anything that is collected in reimbursement that is not part of the scheduled reimbursement line, then it would just they all filter under the unscheduled reimbursements. Typically, like I said, it was usually like a probation monitoring to speak to exactly what the board brings in. I can possibly Jessica or someone can address exactly what those are.
So that also includes any citations that we issue or any cost recovery we get, because it's not a scheduled reimbursement, it would go under there. So like I said, it's mostly the cost recovery and citations.
Okay.
Thank you. And I forgot, I did mean to say there are also cost recoveries that are not projected, and those can come in for past years as well.
Great. Okay, got it. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for the budget?
On the original memo, it says that the fund is anticipated to decrease in 2022, 2023. It doesn't look like it's decreasing, though, on this projection.
Yeah, when you look at the fund condition, you'll see in budget year +1, 2022, 2023, or sorry, 2023, 2024, you see it dip down to 8.2 because it was at 8.4, and actually prior year it was 8.5. And the reason is the expenditures continue to increase, but the revenue remains the same. So the structural imbalance really starts to happen when you look at budget year +1, 2023, 2024. You see under total revenues in the middle of the page, it's $7,548. But then when you go down to the expenditures, it's actually, so it is, you're still good on that. But it will start decreasing. You see the GSI will start hitting the budget, and then you see the months in reserve starts decreasing.
I'm sorry, the GSI is?
I'm sorry, the general salary increase under expenditures.
Okay.
So that starts to hit, it's a -48 there.
Yeah.
And then you see that the months in reserve starts declining. And also one thing to keep in mind is because this doesn't include any additional budget change proposals that we may do. So if we need additional staff for enforcement, this would not be indicative of that. And I do anticipate having to proceed with pursue budget change proposals for more enforcement staff. So I anticipate expenditures increasing that aren't reflected here. And you do see under, 2023, 2024, you have that 7,548 is the amount of revenue that we're bringing in, but the amount that we end up spending is more than that. So that's where that structural imbalance is. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you include a increase in expenditures? Where would the Attorney General's fees be? Because I assume you took into consideration the lawsuit as for increased expenditures.
Yeah, so the expenditures is all rolled up into 1111 line item for all of the expenditures. And so when you look at the expenditure projection report, the number on in the budget would correlate to the number in the fund condition.
Okay. All right.
One thing I do want to highlight to members is in the original memo, it talks about the revenue. It gives you the revenue report for fiscal month 13. The reason why this is important is because I think the board needs to see at least every fiscal month 13 to assess how we did in projecting the revenue that we're bringing in. As you might recall from a few years back, we had an issue with the revenue being over projected, and we would project that based on the renewal fees for the VACSPs. We had anticipated bringing a lot more revenue in a few years back when that program started. And so there was this, we weren't close to the projections, which then ultimately hurt our budget and the fund. And so over the last couple of years, this is something we're really paying attention to when we're building in the budget and what we're projecting, to looking at the data from prior years to make a more accurate estimate to build our budget. So you see there in the budget, we had originally projected $7.5 million, and we brought in 7.6. So we were pretty close to what we had projected to what we actually received. And that's something that you want to see year after year. We obviously don't want to under-project. We don't want to over-project too much. So that's just another measure to make sure that we're doing all right when we come to these projections. And then Dr. Nolan, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, and I apologize for my tardiness. It looks like we had about 211,000 budgeted for transportation, and I know we don't really know what's going to happen this coming year, but do you have a feel for how you and your staff feel about having some remote and some in-person meetings, or is there any feeling from your standpoint as to what you would hopefully do? I know some of us board members like the idea of meeting in person, but it certainly saves us money to meet remotely. So.
Yeah, and I think for our standpoint, we really look at just the guidance from DCA, and there's always been this standing order that we only bring the necessary staff to travel to board meetings. And so now with the ability to do things virtually, that's something that we'll be assessing. We do anticipate when we do go back to in-person meetings, to keep a hybrid model. So then we anticipate many staff being able to participate virtually. It's just we're going to really monitor that and decide where to go from there, depending on the budget. But it should be noted that even though it's $211,000, that's also a line item that we reduced when we had to do the 5% permanent reduction. So that number will also be going down, I believe, next fiscal year in the next budget. But also, if you look at the prior years and the cost of travel, even prior to COVID, we never came anywhere close to that $211,000. So I think we're still going to be okay once we start traveling again to board meetings.
You know, a thought just occurred to me that's just a little off topic. Have we actually seen an increase in attendance to these meetings since they've gone virtual? Because ideally we would want as many people to attend as possible, or is it about the same? The same people are coming? I
haven't actually done the side-by-side comparison. I do believe we've had a lot more public participation, but I'll look at it and bring that comparison back at a future meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And then Kathy, your hand is still up. Do you still want to? Do you still have a question?
I did. Yeah, I had forgotten to ask one other question, and I know this kind of slops over to the enforcement report we'll be getting. But with the reverted funds that we in this year's budget, could we utilize some of those rather than going through a VCP process or whatever, or to if we decided as a board to hire temps and train temps to help with the backlog on enforcement cases, since we have this large savings right now?
So we can't do anything with the money that's being reverted back into the fund after the fiscal month 13 because it's already over. And in order to get an additional budget allocation in a line item, we have to do the budget change proposal process. However, if, say, this fiscal year, we're looking at reverting the same amount and we believe we can pay for a position out of the blanket, that's essentially the funds left over, then we can pursue it that way as well.
So if we thought about this earlier, could we have done it before the close of the fiscal year, knowing that, we were going to have some significant savings, or you just never really know?
So we did pay for a couple things out of the blanket, but we also need to be careful because we do need to revert back into the fund to keep the fund healthy. And so just because we have the line item doesn't mean we should be spending it. To make sure that the fund is okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a funny term, out of the blanket.
Yeah.
For money that is left over. Okay. Kathy, is your hand still up, or is it? Is you still getting used to the iPad? All right. Very good.
There's no more questions for our budget. Thank you very much, Karen and Heather, for joining us.
Harmony. Thank you, Harmony.
Or Harmony, sorry.
Thank you. Have a good day.
I'll continue on. For the remainder of this report, there's additional training videos that staff have been involved in creating with the Office of Public Affairs, and we're posting those to our website, which provides some instruction to our candidates on how to apply through Breeze for our licensure pathways. And we will be updating these in the future with the changes that will be coming down due to the AB 1535 passing and different requirements for licensure. The diversion program, I'm sorry?
Why wasn't I made aware of these videos?
They're on, they're
in videos.
Oh, these are done by the Office of Public Affairs, and they are storyboard kind of videos.
Right.
Fun to watch
And
helpful.
I'll focus
There's no professional dancing in the Mark. That's why
I'll
you weren't
focus on the TikTok account then. Thanks.
They're animated, but I do recommend, if you guys have not, click on those links and watch the videos. If you don't mind watching them, they're pretty amazing. I just want to throw a shout out to the DCA's Office of Public Affairs. They worked pretty hard on them and they worked quickly on them, and so I really appreciate the work that they did, and we feel it's very helpful for any of the visual learners who want to apply with us.
Yeah, they're good. I saw them. They're good.
And our diversion committee met earlier this month. There's currently one person enrolled in the program. And again, as part of AB 1535, it will be updated to the Wellness Evaluation Committee come January. Do you have any questions for me regarding the admin report?
I don't see any. Do we open it up for public comment right now? Moderator?
All right.
So it's up to you if you want to do public comment on each report, or if you want to do it all at the end.
We can do it for each one, so they don't forget.
All right, this is the moderator. I'll go ahead and open up the Q&A panel then. So it is now open. We are displaying instructions, and if any member of the public would like to talk on this agenda item, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We will give you a moment. All right, I'm not seeing any requests for comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And I think, Timothy, you have the next report as well.
Yes, the examination report. So on this one, I'd like to reiterate what was explained yesterday, the ICVA has released a quarterly newsletter that we have attached. They have updates regarding their programs on it, and it is very interesting to read because they are important updates. The examination statistics are posted for us. We have seen a similar pass rate overall, it appears. The NAVLE has decreased, but that was because of, I believe, fewer candidates testing. And that should change once more candidates test. We can get a better set of data for that. Additionally, we have the RVT statistics for their school programs. We get this from the AAVSB still and update our data with the school pass rates on that for the inspection requirement and probation requirement for that. Schools have reached out to me recently regarding these and how we are generating them. And I explained to them that this is data that we receive from the AAVSB and we are mandated to follow as part of our regulations. We are seeing a continued fluctuation with our applicant and licensing pools. Again, I believe that's due to our graduation rates and when application or examinations are offered. So it's a natural fluctuation throughout the year with our applications and licensing. We are still getting questions about the California State Board. I'm letting everybody know who contacts us that it is no longer required as of January next year with the passing of AB 1535. However, it is still a requirement until that time. So we have candidates who are juggling or making judgments on whether or not they want to test now to try and get licensed sooner or wait until January for other requirements. Similarly, with our reciprocity candidates, they can apply for a temporary license now. And then since the 3-day course is no longer being offered at this time, to bridge the gap until the reciprocity requirements have been eased to not require the 3-day course. We are still seeing increased Breeze usage for renewals and applications. This is good. It really helps streamline processes. And we have, I believe, completely removed the paper applications from our websites and incorporate those applications into Breeze for our candidates to complete. And attached are the performance measures for our applicants. You can see them through the individual transactions report. Do you have any questions for me on this item?
So do we have more RVT programs that have fallen 10% below the state average, and according to our current
we do have one who would now be on a watch list, but they have to fall under for 2 consecutive fiscal years, and that has not been met yet for the one that has.
Okay.
And others have corrected.
They raised it up. Okay.
Yes.
This is the issue that's still on hold for further research.
That's correct. And this programs did present at prior board meetings with the changes that they are making to their programs, and they're aware of these issues.
Yep. Okay. Kathy?
Good morning. Thanks, Timothy. I just, a question, and I know we talked about this last time, and maybe the applications, I mean, the licensing statistics are pretty constant, but I'm wondering, should we be concerned about these, what I think seem to be large decreases in both applications and licenses for veterinarians and RVTs, if I'm reading your report correctly? I know sometimes it's the time of year, the quarter we're looking at, you know, based on graduations for new veterinarians, but it seems like the 40% decrease in vets and and the RVTs is 44 seems high. And I don't recall that other than the last report we got in July too. I don't recall seeing that kind of a drop in prior years. Is this COVID related? Is it, do we know? Or is it, am I overreading this?
I believe that a lot of it is tied to graduation, and there is an effect of COVID on this as well. Last report, there was a significant increase because significant increase in licensure, and that's because examinations had ended, graduations had ended, so all of the applications were being completed at that time. And right now, we're not at the point where veterinary students can apply with us, and they're probably going to be holding off now until they're closer to graduation with the changes that are being made to eliminate the CSB. That's my speculation on that. And additionally, with the RVT examinations, that examination being offered during set examination windows affects when they're apply with us.
And this is, does this include, when we say licenses issued for veterinarians decreased by 40% or whatever, is that new licenses or renewals as well? Or where do renewals fall?
These are
they don't
brand
get
new
reflected.
Licenses.
Brand
Sorry,
new, got it. Okay. That's,
yes, and we have the.
I guess it makes sense then, just the time of year.
And I do have the license
Probably.
population statistics at the bottom, which show that we are still gaining our licenses.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The license numbers are steadily, slowly increasing. They're not rapidly decreasing. It's just that seemed the applications and the, that seemed to be lower than normal. Okay, thank you. That's my real main question.
And that may take a couple of years for that information to trickle down to the license population effects.
Got it. Okay.
I believe Jennifer Laredo.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what you said, Timothy. It's true, I think, with the RVT applications, the graduation issue with COVID, a lot of the RVT schools shut down for 3 semesters. Some of them are still not fully back in person. And I had heard a lot of concern from students who were angry. Doesn't the board understand? And I want to remind everybody that the requirements are set by the AVMA. The board does not set those requirements. So they're the ones that have those essential skills that have to be performed hands-on, which you cannot do virtually. So I think that is a big reason that we're seeing the decrease in the RVT applications. When we first experienced everything in early 2020, that was in the middle of the semester. So a lot of students had those courses they needed to graduate, and that prevented them from doing so. So you hit the nail on the head with that one.
Thanks for reminding me. I had forgotten that we did get a number of calls from students saying, how am I supposed to meet this requirement?
I had a question. Timothy, have you heard about with the state exam for the RVTs being eliminated, that there are some groups are talking about loopholes in how to get your RVT license in California by taking nationals in another state and then not having any of the not having all the educational requirements fulfilled. They can still get a license through reciprocity or anything like that.
I have heard about that, but we do have a regulation that still requires the 16 hours of practice in 2 years for those who are coming through reciprocity. And that's what we point them to when they have obtained a license in another jurisdiction.
And how is that verified that they do have that experience?
We have a form that's submitted to us or a letter from an employer, from the veterinarian supervisor.
Okay, and we just assume from the veterinarian that they have actually received that, so it's like the honor system there?
Yes.
Okay.
I do want to clarify too, though, when it comes to the technicians, we have seen a steady decrease in applications year after year. The data I have is from 17-18, and since then, in 17-18, it was 934 apps, and in 2022-2023, we're projecting 735. So it goes from 934 to 870, 828, 780. So it is steadily decreasing year after year.
So removing the state exam didn't result in more RVTs.
I also want to kind of clarify that too, that applications received includes reapplications. So candidates who have failed an examination and then have to reapply.
And I see Jennifer has her hand up again.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that immediately after we removed that state exam, we increased the fees. So I think that has a lot to do with it also.
Yeah, and we're hoping with the decrease starting January 1 that'll help, because all fees for RVTs will decrease to $225.
I have to renew mine this month, so I'm just reminded of the fees.
We didn't increase the fees as much as it would have been to take the examination, though, did we? I mean, okay.
I don't have the numbers on the top of my head, but when it comes to the multiple applications that they have to file, it came out to, I'm sure Nancy Ehrlich or Carvta could give you the actual numbers, but it was quite a bit. Once they have to apply to take the exam, apply for the exam, pay the fees, it was quite a bit in addition to those who are renewing their licenses.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I always want to be mindful that although I'm in complete favor of getting more RVTs into the hospitals, we can't lower the standards where it's going to be a consumer protection issue. And with the education of requirements or clinical hours, there are some veterinarians that are going to be more truthful than others on whether or not the applicants have actually done the work.
Dr. Nunez, I think that may have been true pre-COVID, so.
And also currently alternate route candidates are the only ones who have to reapply with the board to retake the VTNE.
Okay. Any other questions? Does that conclude your report, Timothy?
That concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions from the public for licensing and examination?
Thank you. This is the moderator, and I've opened up the Q&A panel. So if any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions. All right, I see no request for comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Moving on to the enforcement report. Let's have the enforcer step forward.
Hi, good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can, Patty. Good morning.
Okay, good. And if I could share my screen so you can see the report.
This is the moderator. One moment, Patty. I'll make you the presenter.
Okay.
All right, you're the presenter.
Okay. Can everyone see the report? Okay, good. All right, so the managers continue to work with the department's human resources staff with the merger of inspections and enforcement So that approval is in the final stages, and so we're hoping to finalize that shortly. We as managers have already started working together, and we've been holding team meetings with all the analysts, and we have been cross-training on various inspection and enforcement processes. And since it's on Teams, we go ahead and record the meeting so that staff can refer to them as needed, and then also to train new staff as new staff joins the board. So inspections is now easily accessible to the entire enforcement team, and the enforcement analyst can now quickly request an inspection if it's triggered by a complaint regarding sanitary conditions or minimum standard issues. And so what we've directed staff to do is to request that inspection as they start working on the case, so that the inspection doesn't age. So what we're finding with the older cases is that inspections were done 2 years ago or more, and so now that inspection is now, you know, pretty much stagnant, and it's really not useful to take action. So that's one of the things that we've been changing now that we're all one big happy family, is that the analysts are requesting inspections as they're actually working the case, so that the inspection findings will be fresh and current, and will indicate that, you know, but the violations continue to occur. So that's one of the new processes that we've implemented. So the analysts will also be reviewing all the compliance documents, and it's not just the inspections analysts. Well, now they're all enforcement analysts, so they're going to be handling anything having to do with the inspection review. So that's a process that we're hoping is going to streamline the way that things are done and reduce the number of people that are involved in the investigation. And of course, that's going to reduce cycle times and costs. Routine inspections have resumed slowly but surely, and they are going to be handled by the enforcement technician and the inspector. And so if what we're starting with are these routine inspections that, again, were probably a few years old, that staff did not have the opportunity, we just didn't have the time to follow up on it. So we are re-inspecting those facilities and actively working them. So the inspector goes out, and in a timely manner, corrections are requested and reviewed, and then the enforcement technician takes a look at what the findings are, and if there's still outstanding violations, and that's immediately assigned to an analyst, and they are actively working on those cases, whether it's issuing a citation, or if it's particularly egregious, then maybe escalating that to discipline. So again, that is how we're starting with the routines, and we will incrementally increase those as we go along. The merger has enabled to grow the enforcement program from 10 to 15 analysts without any additional cost to the board. So this will assist in addressing just the increasing number of complaints that just continue to increase annually. We've divided all the cases evenly among all of the analysts. So we redistributed everything, and each analyst is got about 250 cases, and no more than 250 cases apiece. So over the next few weeks, the analysts will be they'll be looking at all of their cases and triaging those and making sure there isn't anything in their workload that needs to be escalated and needs to be looked at right away, despite, you know, when we may have received it. So that's the direction that we've given them. We're not asking them to take a deep dive into every single one of their cases, but just to, do a quick overview. And if it's something that needs to be looked at immediately, then we will go ahead and do that, despite, again, the date or how old that complaint may be. So this should help us know what it is that is actually pending and what kind of cases we have out there, and if there's any that need immediate attention, that we'll be able to get to those right away. And so each of us managers will continue to oversee a specific area of enforcement. So Rob continues his focus on the expert witness program, and Matt is overseeing the probation program, and then I will continue to oversee the inspections. So for staff update, we welcomed a few new folks since the last board meeting, starting with Jennifer Lee. And she was working over in the enforcement unit in medical board. And she was handling 801 complaints and settlement complaints. And so she's familiar with the enforcement aspect of the department. And Wendy Garsky, who worked with the state for many years, retired at the end of August, and Ms. Garsky served with us for 3 years, and she provided valuable training to her colleagues on the disciplinary process. So we appreciate her service and her dedication over the years, and we certainly wish her the best in this new chapter in her life with retirement. And our probation technician, Kimberly Phillips Francis, was promoted to a vacant position in September, and we anticipate backfilling her position very soon. Hoping by the end of this month, but definitely by the beginning of November, that should be taken care of. And the interviews will be happening here in the next couple of days. The enforcement unit also lost Cheryl Douglas, and she accepted a position in the private sector at the end of August, and she had been with the board for a few months. And we also welcomed Robert Rauch from the Department of Managed Healthcare at the end of September, along with Ms. Tara Riesner from Medical Board and Nellie Forget from the Dental Board. They both started with us on October 1st. And our probation lead, Ms. Ginger Gerard, accepted a position with the Physician Assistant Board, and she will be leaving us here at the end of the month. And as you all know, Ginger served with us for 4 years and played an integral role in identifying longstanding probation issues which we've addressed through process improvements and outreach and enhanced disciplinary guidelines. So we're so sad to see her go, but we're encouraged to know that she will continue her role of consumer protection and improving probation processes within the department. And we hope to fill her position by the end of November. That's the goal. So we certainly wish her well in her new endeavor. Currently, we have 7 board inspectors in recruitment efforts. I know they say they've concluded, but they're actually continuing, and the interviews will be completed shortly. The training session, we hope to, if we can't have it at the end of October, definitely by the beginning of November. And because of COVID, the training will continue to be virtual. We had 2 of our inspectors, our 2 DVM inspectors, participate in the medical board's expert reviewer training that happened just over the weekend. And now all of our veterinarian inspectors are able to review standard of care cases as well as minimum standard complaint cases. So with that, I will go ahead and turn over the rest of this report to Rob.
Okay, hello everyone. I'll take it away here, starting at intake. So our intake technicians are meeting our target time of 10 days, which is the time we receive a complaint to it being assigned to an analyst, which is great. As I mentioned before, last year we received over 1,600 complaints, which at the time was a 25% increase over the prior year. So a really, really large increase. This year we're projected, based on this first quarter, to be around 1,700 cases. So it's going up even further. And then that actually is going to double the complaints we received about 5 years ago. So we've had a pretty significant increase in recent times.
Rob, would you mind sharing your screen so everybody can follow along with you, please?
Wasn't it still being shared? I thought that, oh, no, I was gonna have Patty actually scroll through it. That's what I asked. I don't know if it.
Oh yeah, it won't let me. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Let me.
Control again?
Yes.
I still
Sorry.
have it up, so whoever.
Here. You've got it, Patty.
Okay,
You might need to reshare again, though.
got it.
There you go.
Okay.
Where were we? Intake? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And as far as the complaints that we receive, I know we always talk about the types of complaints. Negligence and incompetence are still the majority of complaints we received. There was, for this quarter, a slight uptick for minimum standards complaints and general unprofessional conduct. So I don't know whether that's just a result of the pandemic and everything going on. Obviously, we're still reasonably early in the year, so it could be just an aberration, and maybe it'll go back to having negligence and incompetence back at, I think it's around 50% normally, as it's been in the past 3 years. When we move over to investigations, we obviously have quite a few cases pending. So we've got over 3,800 cases pending. Of those cases, 550 are over 3 years old. The directive continues to be working on the oldest cases. But one of the things that did come up, and I think it was after several conversations with the MDC Complaint Audit Subcommittee and Dr. Bradberry, was that the majority of the cases that we closed on this report for this fiscal year were less than 3 years old. So they were basically some of our newer cases. And of those cases, those 3-year-old cases, 80% of those or thereabouts were received in 2021. So we're still closing, a majority of our cases being closed are still newer cases, despite the directive of working on the oldest cases. And that's just a result of people who reoffend, who are involved, subjects who are involved in older cases, the companion cases on older cases, and then sometimes when we need to fast track a case, if there's something very straightforward like a record keeping allegation that our intake technicians can jump on right away, or particularly egregious cases that we have to jump on immediately. And then one of the other suggestions, Dr. Bradberry has been wonderful with providing suggestions. Obviously, we're open to anything that can help us at this point. One of her suggestions was reaching out to other similar sized boards just to see what they do as far as their investigation process, if they dealt with similar backlogs and what they did. So we are going to do that, and that actually melds well into our strategic plan. That's one of our objectives. So we will be setting that up. Next item is DFI. This is just another quick one. We still only utilize DFI when it's absolutely necessary. We have had a slight increase in the DFI usage just based on some of the cases that we've run into where we've needed an investigator to go out for a field investigation for an unlicensed practice case or a safety issue. One of the other things that we ran into in the past, but we've given more pushback to DFI, is that they constantly demanded, I think, that we always sent an inspector with them. And their reasoning was the inspector was the one who had the authority to pull records. But we gave them some pushback because after we looked at the law, it appeared that they were acting as an agent for the board, so they should be able to pull records on our behalf. They took it up the chain, and eventually DFI said, yes, we can pull records on your behalf. We don't need an inspector to go with us on every investigation, which is great because every time we send an inspector out, that costs us money. Expert witness program, I know it was touched on Wednesday quite a bit. I know we had a pretty good discussion about not only the expert witness program during the Complaint Audit Subcommittee report, but also just the enforcement program in general. Dr. Lazarchev, one of the subcommittee members, along with Dr. Bradberry, attended the medical board's expert witness training last week. He said it was great, which is really, really great to hear. We are working on a specialized training. I mentioned this last board meeting that Karen Denver, our DAG liaison, is working on, and that's going to touch on some veterinary specific issues and some of the concerns that have been brought to us from the complaint audit subcommittee. I think, as I mentioned in the MDC report, probably last board meeting and this one as well, is that a lot of the concerns that have been brought up by the subcommittee we have known about, because we are working on cases that are pretty old and we've made improvements since then. And so we are discovering that, yes, these issues are presenting themselves in these cases, but they've already been addressed. But it is interesting to see how often these issues come up, but they shouldn't be coming up anymore because that process has changed. Next on to probation. So this is a quick one. So probation staff, they've been focusing on ensuring that all the probation statuses and the files have been properly entered into the Breeze system. We want to make sure that we are fully utilizing that system, especially for data entry, and that it does require a full review of every probationer's file. Obviously, Kim Phillips-Francis was promoted to an analyst position. She was working on that, and I know she was really excited. She was making a lot of ground on getting that data entered, but we have to get that position filled, and then obviously the technician who moves into that position will continue with that task. It's really, really important that we get all that information into Breeze, because it allows us to run a report to know what's going on with enforcement a lot more clearly versus having to manually pull files and kind of thumb through paper files. Right now, we've got about 72 probationers. With those probationers, we've got 114 pending complaints against the probationers, and that's against 35 of those 72. So it's not like the 72 probationers each have a complaint. 35 of those probationers have the 114 complaints. So many of those have multiple. When it comes to AG's office, the cycle times for discipline, they continue to increase year over year. I think the value in there is incorrect that I have on the memo. It should say 1321 for the cycle time for this year, and that's increasing just due to the complexity of the cases that are being worked. I mentioned it on Wednesday, but I know that these cases are extremely complex. They're basically, some of them are kind of cold cases at this point, and I know the analysts are kind of pulling their hair out at times, going through the evidence and then obtaining evidence on cases that are this old. But the reason that they're this old is because they are so egregious that maybe the analysts who touched these previously didn't want to finish it up. Likewise, with these cases, a lot of these complex cases, or the cases that might have evidentiary issues, we are turning to Karen on a regular basis to get her input from the AG and a supervising DAG's point of view, which is wonderful to have access to her. We have talked to her at length at multiple occasions about improvements that we've made or considered, and then asked for her input on improvements she thinks that we could make to improve things, not only for the AG's office, but just enforcement in general, because obviously she deals with multiple boards. And then the complaint audit subcommittee discussed the backlog of complaints and some of these improvements on Wednesday. And I know that Karen was able to join the conversation, which was great, to get her input. And I believe she's here again. And I don't know if Karen, if you wanted to hop in and just provide maybe some more touch on what we talked about during that meeting. I know that it was a pretty lengthy item on Wednesday, but I think we had a lot of valuable feedback and back and forth.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
So, and if I forget to cover something I covered on Wednesday, feel free to remind me, Rob. So I'm Karen Denver. I'm a supervising Deputy Attorney General at the Attorney General's office and the liaison for your board. And been working with Rob primarily, but also with Jessica and with Matt on a number of fronts. One of them being, I know that you all are aware of the efforts to reduce the backlog. One thing I wanted to note is that we do represent a number of boards, and your cases tend to be some of the most complicated that we get for a variety of reasons. One of them being that, of course, animal patients cannot speak. So there's a lot of reconstructing what occurred. They just tend to be more complicated. And so I know that getting through that backlog in addition to keeping the new cases moving, is, you know, the ultimate priority for Jessica and for Rob. And what I can say is that I get calls and emails fairly regularly from management, as well as, you know, staff members who are analyzing a case if they have a question about something. And it is very helpful from my point of view, because if something can be done on the front end before it comes to us, it saves a lot of time and money across the board. And so as far as the cases that are coming over to us, I have found in seeing them, I became a supervisor a little over a year ago, so I'm not getting my own cases any longer, but I see more of them as a supervisor. And then I also consult with our deputies throughout the state on their cases. The cases are very well prepped when they come to us. So if there's a lot less time that the deputy has to spend in filling any holes. Also, some of them are coming over with settlement terms, which speeds the entire process along. I'm sure you'll be happy to hear. And we'll save a lot of money for a case that will ultimately settle. It's very helpful to the deputy to have those terms up front. And again, to kind of be more efficient with processing those cases. So from my point of view, I'm not as, you know, familiar with what is going on internally to address the backlog, but as far as what we're getting on the other end, the cases are ready to go, and we have not really encountered problems at all once they come to our office, which is very nice. And I do also think having this kind of open door policy with Rob and the analyst, if there is a question, it saves a lot of time and money on the front end to say whether you know, there's not enough there, whether it would help if we had additional evidence, additional documents. So I know that in addition to this large backlog of mostly complicated cases and then this huge influx of cases coming in, that it seems kind of like this never-ending task. But I would say that from my point of view, it does seem like, at least when they come to our office, that it's been streamlined quite a bit. Everything has kind of been vetted and qualified and filled in. So that's just kind of what I wanted to let you know from what I have seen on our side. Was there anything else, Rob, that we discussed on Wednesday? Yeah.
I had a question. The cases may be ready to go, but I assume there's a backlog with just the court dates with there being judges or courts available to take the cases. Is there a backlog there?
There actually has not been as much. I think possibly having hearings remotely has kind of sped things along a little bit. So there hasn't been as much of a backlog as we've experienced in the past in general.
And I think that Dr. Bradberry is having trouble raising her hand. Did you have a question for Karen Denver?
I do. Can you guys hear me? My internet seems really bad.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. I actually just had I had some questions for some questions and comments for the whole group. So first of all, I wanted, since you're there on the hot seat, Miss Denver, I just wanted to thank you. Your engagement in this process and with our board, and being available for our analysts to call and taking the time to try and make things, you know, more veterinary specific for our expert witnesses. Just all of that, I just want to thank you for your work there. I think it's probably above and beyond. I don't know what other liaisons have done, but you've just been great. And so I just wanted to thank you for helping us, because we could use all the help we can get. And I know Rob and Jessica and Patty and all of them are working so hard, and having you on that other end has just been invaluable. So thank you.
Thank you.
And then I had a question for Patty, which is I think an easy one. I'm just trying to, being on the subcommittee, I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Can you just, if you have questions for Ms. Denver, and then we'll go back and open up questions for Patty and Rob. But while Ms. Denver's on the phone, if you had any specific questions for her, and then
no
we'll
other.
Okay.
No.
All right, and then we'll turn it back to Rob to finish, and then we'll all grill him.
Right. I think I'm pretty much done. There's also a chart that has the civil suit. It looks like we're about 22,275 so far with our AG costs for that suit. And then we've got, of course, the normal enforcement and data and performance measures below that are described throughout the memo. But yes, I'd be happy to answer any questions about enforcement that you.
Okay. The first thing I would like to say is thank you. I'm very impressed with everyone in the enforcement team. You've really done a lot of work in this merger of merging the inspection team with the enforcement team, and it's a testament to a staff that's willing to do, if one thing is not working, to do something different. And it looks like you've made a lot of changes to try to streamline our backload in our cases. And thank you. And you guys are great. I think Patty, I think you've been here almost as long as I've been here, and so thank you for your dedication to this board. Your knowledge of how things have gone in the past is invaluable. So it's nice to see you starting off with the enforcement report. I still give you my condolences. You now have 15 analysts with 250 cases each. Again, Rhode Island has 4 cases. And when I was talking to the board president, she was agonizing because she had to call the complainant and talk to her about not doing well. And all the other veterinarians in the state were calling her and telling her to get on it. That 25% increase in professional misconduct or unprofessionalism, is that the COVID rage, do you think, from consumers? We don't know if that's going to result in any disciplinary action.
Right. That would be my guess. I think I mentioned it during the last board meeting about that increase. I think it was also discussed yesterday just about tensions being so high on both sides, really. And I think the communication aspect maybe just getting lost in translation, people just being quick to jump straight to the board without talking to the healthcare professional. I could definitely see that being a reason for the increase.
Yeah. And welcome to all the new members of our staff. Jessica, we have to talk to Robert Rauch because I think the Department of Managed Healthcare was involved in the discount drug programs. So we've got to interview him and let him know on our continued quest for the DEA NPI adventure. And do we get some sort of award or certificate for having the most complicated cases of all the healthcare professions? I think we should. Something.
Rewarded by having Karen Denver as our DAG liaison. That's the biggest reward.
All right.
Sorry.
Thank you, guys. I know you have the hardest job, but thank you for doing it well. And now
thank you.
I'll start with the one who doesn't have the ability to raise her hand, Dr. Bradberry. But I see other hands too. So
sorry. Okay, so I just this one's just for Patty. It's a quick question. How long does it typically take between the request for an inspection and then the inspection to actually occur?
We try to have the inspector go out like within just a few weeks. That has been a little bit more challenging because due to the number of inspectors that we have now. That's decreased quite dramatically, and of course their availability. So as you all know, veterinarians are so busy, extremely busy right now. So for them to be able to carve out this time to go and conduct an inspection, sometimes we are waiting a little bit longer for when they have a day off. I mean, because some of our folks are working, 14 days in a row or something like that. So the goal is to get it done as soon as possible, hopefully within a few weeks. Sometimes we've got to wait, a month or two especially if it's in an area where we don't have an inspector readily available.
Great, that helps me, and I think that that's pretty good considering all the circumstances. So, thank you. All right, then I just wanted to, with Rob, we talked about the assigning the people that the different analysts 250 cases around that each, and going through looking for the egregious things. I think you are also having them look for cases that had everything sort of ready to go, because some of the cases that we reviewed for the subcommittee were from 2017, but it was like in 2018 they had really everything you needed with the you know, a conviction, arrest record, et cetera, admissions. It just really needed to be moved forward. And so I believe you're looking for those cases as well so that you can clear those out, because those aren't the complex ones. Those are just ones that can be then either cited or, you know, settled or whatever. Is that correct?
Right. Yes. So they'd be looking through the cases to get us an idea if there's something egregious in there, which, you know, knock on wood, there's not going to be too many, because that would be absolutely concerning. But of course, that's something that keeps many of us up at night thinking of this, the backlog of cases. But yeah, we'd be looking for cases that are pretty much ready to go. They got everything, and we can just move it to the next point. I think even thus far, because I know our analysts have already started to dive into these cases, we've gotten some where presumably, I mean, some look like they might be non-jurisdictional. So we could get some really quick closures in there too. And I think that this could definitely help us out.
Great. Are you able, because I know most of the cases are in Breeze. I think some of the older ones don't have the information in Breeze to be able to like easily cross-reference what's happening with them. Are they entering those in at the same time and kind of maybe expanding on the description of what they are? Because that was the other thing. We're like, can you easily go back and look at these things so people can kind of work them more easily as time goes by?
You know, I believe the analyst should be putting notes into Breeze, but I can double check to make sure that it is getting done, because that is a good point. If somebody's done a quick overview and found, hey, we need to get X, Y, and Z, it'd be good to have that in it's called the tombstone of the Breeze program, to make sure that is input in that part of it, just in case that person, you know, doesn't stick around for some reason, that somebody can easily get those cases and just they don't have to do the same thing over again. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, because I know, like, just as a veterinarian, when I'm having to look back on a case that I haven't seen in a while, it takes a while to re-review it. And so as much information up front, I think would help cut down the time spent if it does end up in another analyst. So thank you for all of that. This final question, sorry everyone, is, I think, or not question, but just kind of a comment. It seems like, you know, since I've been on the board, there is just a ton of staff turnover, and I think that that's just a general thing that we have to be, basically just have to accept. I've talked to former board members who had mentioned that it's sort of a structural thing where for people to sort of move up at the DCA, they're like, for, I guess, raises or promotions, it's hard to do that within the same board. I feel like we have to kind of just be prepared for this staff turnover. If it just seems like we're always training people, and then they leave, and that's a huge resource waste. And so is that a structural thing within the DCA that we could maybe start working with the DCA to see if there's ways to retain staff for longer? Or maybe we can just interview Patty and find out why she's still with us, because we really love having you. But I don't know. It's just an observation, and I don't know if this is the place to talk about it, but I just thought I'd bring that up. And those are my final comments. Thanks, everyone.
Let's offer them free veterinary care for all their pets.
we wouldn't be able to accept that, but just throw
no. We have Kathy and then Dr. Nolan, please.
Good morning, guys. Thank you for the very detailed report, as always. I have a few questions, little ones. Patty, on the inspections, maybe towards the beginning of the next year, do you think that we would actually be able to, as board members, to go out on any inspections once they're up and operational again? Or I don't even know if that's a DCA. It's allowable under COVID.
Yeah, we would have to make sure we take the COVID requirements into consideration, and what those will be at the next year, we don't know. So it'll just be kind of a wait and see what happens. But as soon as we're able to, then yeah, we'd love to do more ride-alongs.
I think, yeah, especially we have a couple of new members. I think it's just very instructive for me to go, and I think it's always useful for the members to see what goes on in a premises inspection. It really makes a difference. So that's great. And then on the goal of everybody's researching their lovely 250 case package. And it says trying to get it through this month. Do you guys anticipate hopefully by the end of November having everyone have gone through their pack of old cases or their case assignments and sort of putting them into various buckets? So you're still on task for it being at probably the end of this month, end of November, I would say. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Yes. The impression I'm getting from the analysts on my team, it appears that they are plugging away at them.
That's great. And I really want to compliment you guys. I know Jessica, because you know your way around DCA and every one of those boards. I think the recruitment for the replacements for our analysts coming from other health boards is amazing, because that gives them a leg up, and they already know how to deal with complicated cases that are medical plus communication plus emotional and everything else. So I'm hoping I thought great that you got them from all those other boards. Now, as Christina says, now we got to keep them. But anyway, last a couple. Let me think here. One more thing. On the and this, you may have answered this in the MDC meeting during the complaint audit subcommittee report. On the expert witnesses, there were still some pretty significant issues with some of the expert witnesses. And are those from old cases where prior to our better training, because we've increased the breadth of the training and the detail of the expert witness training quite a bit in the last 6 years, or 5 years. So are those criticisms really from older cases? And we feel like most of our people, now we haven't seen Karen Denver's new training, of course, but I just was kind of struck by the criticisms there, and I thought they were concerning.
Yeah, those are definitely, I think a lot of them are a result of old cases. And that's why I think it had been mentioned that many of the concerns that were brought up by the subcommittee, we have been aware of and we've already addressed. It's just interesting to see that how often it occurred. I know that Dr. Bradberry noticed several where they had multiple experts, or they had an expert on a case where she was wondering, why would we have an expert on this case? And she's exactly right. That's why we don't do it anymore. Obviously, the cycle times are concerning. That's really what we're focusing on right now. But all the concerns are definitely issues that we're aware of and we've addressed. And then one of the other tasks that I'm going to do, as I did in the past, is to convey that information and that feedback to the experts, so that they're aware of it. Many of the experts say, "Oh yeah, that was an old one." I mean, from previous feedback, yeah, I don't do that anymore. Or, "Oh yeah, that makes total sense." So the reception of that feedback has been really positive. And then I know that for several of the cases that they did review, the experts are no longer with the board. And I think that was one of the problems with what we used to do previously was we'd get all this, this information and it's like, great, we have nobody that we can improve with this because they're already gone. I mean, at this point, like I said, we've addressed it, but we'll continue to give that information.
And even if they're gone already, it's a good thing to note while training new ones what to watch for themselves, because human beings fall into those kinds of traps, no matter how much they try not to. Anyway.
Definitely.
Jessica, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I apologize. I had interrupted. But I think that's a fair point, and maybe something to have the subcommittee look at too is potentially, instead of looking at the older cases, wait to see if we have those cases that we have made all of the changes to, and then start reviewing those to look for improvements. Because I think the unfortunate part is they can only see something once it's resolved, and so that's taking time, and that's why these cases are so old. But if we have some cases and keep an eye out for newer cases where all the changes have been implemented and then go from there, I just think if we keep having them review the older cases, they're going to keep finding the same things because the changes hadn't been implemented yet at that point. So I think that as long as we keep doing that, they'll keep seeing the same thing over and over again.
That's a great point. And I think that subcommittee is so critical to our board, and it's a lot of work for those members of the MDC, but I remember when it kind of first started, it's really been very, very helpful, and I'm sure helpful to your staff as well. My last quick question is on our mail ballots, and I don't know what the reasoning is for it, if it's delays in the AG's office or just the throughput, but in the old days, we would usually get about sometimes 4 or 5 a month, 3 or 4, but lately in the last few months, and this could be COVID related as well, we're getting very few a month. And I'm just wondering if that's just a result of remote working and collaboration and or the AG issue on stipulations and things like that. I just wondered, Rob, what you think.
As far as the number, I don't think it has anything to do with any kind of COVID or work stoppage. Or barrier. I think it mostly has to do with the cases that we're reviewing right now. I think we are strongly considering, so if we run into an old case, which is what we're directed to do, those are the cases that typically could have the potential to go to the AG's office. We're reviewing those cases, and one of the things that does stand out is the mitigation. So if we have a case that's, let's say, 5 years old, and we don't have any evidence that is continuing to occur, the mitigation was strong, and of course, in consultation with Karen on some of these cases, then we determine, okay, we might have in the past just sent this over to the AG's office, which I know in the past we did have several cases at the AG's office that probably shouldn't have been there. But I think we're being very discerning in what we're sending to the AG's office to make sure that it does warrant discipline. And I think, like I said, with some of those cases, we are discussing them with Karen, and she's given us her perspective on, hey, this is going to have an evidentiary issue, or oops. Sorry, the lights went off in the conference room. they're on a timer. But basically, yes, we're still plugging away at those cases. I think it's just with the age of them, that is mitigation in itself for many of these cases. Sometimes it's not, but I think that reflects the number of cases that are coming to you in turn for mail votes.
So I guess for me as a board member, I see when we get these cases and we have a vote on them and there is final dispensation, it feels a tangible, it's a tangible closure to a case, and for persons put on probation, the public's protected and things like that. So I guess when I don't see that many coming through, to me it seems like, gosh, are we closing? What's going on? Do we, are we doing work with some of these vets? Are these cases getting reviewed? It's just a tangible closure for me. And that's the way, from a board, we don't see all the work you're doing in between. We only see the end result. And I just always think, gosh, I would like to get these done as soon as possible so that people can get either disciplined if necessary or not disciplined, and closed if that's the correct approach. So that's why I asked. That's, for me, it's more like, tangible something active.
No, that definitely makes sense. And obviously us coming from an internal perspective, we're seeing those cases being closed on our end as maybe it's an educational opportunity. I know that in the last 3 months, we had maybe 60 or 70 cases that were involved in citations that basically that was the end result. Because that was what was warranted at the time. And that's what we take into account.
And that's perfect. That's the stuff we don't see. So that makes sense. I'm glad I asked the question. So thank you.
Rob, can I ask a question about that? I'm wondering if that also could be because as you are evaluating the cases, and again, I wouldn't know this because I'm on the other side, but if it turns out because of mitigating circumstances that you issue a citation and then that's not appealed, then none of us would ever see it, correct?
Right. Well, it'd be on the stats. So I mean, you'd see it on the enforcement stats. But you'd have to delve into that. So it's not as to Ms. Bowler's point, as tangible as the mail vote that comes in and says, "Hey, here's the name, here's the case number, give us action on this." But yeah, certainly, I think that's been the case. And I know you and I have talked about several cases to where we're right on the fence about transmitting to the AG's office, but we've got some of those sticky points where it goes, okay, this is probably, if it goes this far, we take it out, to the nth degree, and it looks like a citation is probably going to be the best in the interest of consumer protection. We don't want to default to it, of course, to say this is the easiest, this is the cheapest, whatever it is, because that's not consistent with our mandate. But if it's achieving consumer protection at the lowest level possible, then that's what we want. So, yeah, certainly. Oh, and I could, Ms. Fuller, I could touch on the point about the and Dr. Bradberry about the turnover. I mean, one of the things that we do here is that the analyst positions, they're all slash positions, which basically means we can hire someone as a staff service analyst. That's basically an analyst who is not fully independent. They do need training and supervision, but that position is a slash position, meaning that once they reach the level of working independently, they can be promoted to an AGPA, which is the higher level classification. And most of the time, that's what people want to do when they go to another board or they want a lateral, they move to, even outside of DCA in general, just with the state, is if they're a staff service analyst, they want to be an AGPA. That's just the next logical step. So we've got it built into the position here is once they reach that level, then they can jump right up to an AGPA. So it is built in. That's what we're trying to do to maintain the staff. I think the workload definitely has plays a big factor in that turnover, of course. Because even with 250 cases, I know I saw Dr. Nunez kind of hear that and kind of go like, oh, because he was thinking of, I think, Rhode Island, and then you mentioned it. But 250 cases is, obviously it's less than the 700 or 800 they had before, but it's still a very, very large caseload. So
it's the reason why it's just too hard of a job with all those cases.
I think it's a lot that's going on. I think there's also a morale issue. I think most analysts, I mean, at least when I was an analyst, I liked to know the scope of my workload. I like to be able to say, okay, I've got these 100 cases and I know what's going on with all of them. And you'd have tabs on them. When you have 250, you lose control of those lingering cases. You get random phone calls with some of those people, the cases you're not working. You feel like you don't know what's going on, and it's very uncomfortable. Right now the cases they're working on are the most complex cases because they are so cold. So really, once the analysts get done with this, they're dealing with the hardest part now. They get to start working the newer cases and they get them fresh, where they're the only person who's touched them. And that's going to be a wonderful feeling, but it's getting through that part of it, which I think is the most challenging part. So I definitely understand where they're coming from. And
I think most veterinarians can relate with 250 complicated cases on their plate and random phone calls.
Oh yeah. I don't doubt it.
It affects retention in our profession, and so that has to be a big part of it too.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Do you think that to help with staff retention, Tara would allow us to give everyone a free puppy or a kitten every year with the board? Something like that? Would that work? No? Okay.
I can't allow that, Sorry.
All right. I think Dr. Nolan is next. And Tara has her hand up. I think she wants to chime in on that. She has. Oh, she's not gonna. Oh.
I agree. No puppies, no free puppies. But I wanted to point out with regard to the number of citations, it appears that your meeting materials on page 6 of this report, Rob, if you or Patty scrolled, yeah, you can see that the cases closed with citation has increased significantly just in the first 3 months of this fiscal year. It's been 33 cases with none appealed. So that, confirms Karen Denver's question about, whether or not the AG's office would have seen these at all. But that's pretty significant given that the 2019 year-to-date was only 24 and last year was only 17. But this year, you guys are really attacking those and issuing citations in a quick manner. And it appears, it seems to me that when these aren't appealed, the respondents agree with this line of action. So I just wanted to point out that this information is in your meeting material, so you can kind of keep an eye on that going forward.
And I do want to clarify the appeal, that's when they do a formal appeal. So if they do an informal conference request with me, that's not counted on here. But still, we haven't had any formal appeals in the last 3 months.
Dr. Nolan?
Well, I just wanted to, before my question, say thank you to all of you. Thank you to Patty and Rob and also to Justin and to Tim and to Ginger and wish her well, and Tara and Jessica. You guys work really, really hard, and I don't get enough accolades for it, and I really, really want to say thank you. I have a quick question, and it's probably for Rob, I'm not sure, but do you have a feel for, you show the pie chart and the number of complaints. Do you have a feel for what percentage are coming for each licensee type? When we have veterinarians and RVTs, and we have the AAVSP. Do you have an idea of which tend to get the most complaints or the least, or is there any kind of feel for that?
Yeah, I could probably actually get the percentages if I dug a little deeper. I mean, I know it's going to be veterinarians who have the highest number of complaints. It's definitely a much lower percentage for the RVTs. I would say that the complaints, if you're going to look at the pie chart for the complaints and how they're divided, the RVT and the VAX complaints are normally, in most cases, going to be a result of their conviction. So if they have a subsequent arrest, or if they're an applicant and they have a conviction that we have to investigate, that's where it's going to plug in on the chart. And of course, there are going to be some outliers when we have an RVT, let's say, who is diverting drugs, or if they're acting outside of their scope of practice, whatever it may be. That's also going to fall in line with the chart, but I think that's more few and far between. Of course, the majority, and it goes hand in hand with the ability to practice and the scope of practice, is going to be the complaints against the veterinarians, where they're saying, the person's complaining and saying, this person killed my dog. And they're going to complain right against, well, sometimes they complain against the facility, and we have to figure out who the vet is. But either way, it's going to come down to a vet, or in some cases, if it's a minimum standard, the MGL, who is also a vet. So the vast majority is going to be the veterinarian licenses who are getting complaints.
So greater than 3/4 of them, you think, or greater than?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions?
This is Christina Bradberry again. I just wanted to thank you again. I don't think I said that in my comments. So thank you, Rob. Thanks for continuing to work so hard and to work with me in the subcommittee, and just for being so transparent and open. And I know it's always difficult, and I just do applaud all of you for your hard work. I think it is making a huge difference in terms of the quality of the cases that are going through, how our convictions are how we're being able to prosecute the cases that need it. And just in anytime you're kind of restructuring a program, it takes time, and it's hard to be at the front end of that. But I think those fruits are starting to pay off. So anyway, the fruits of your labor are starting to pay off. So thank you again, all of you.
And very well organized report. Thank you. Dr. Nolan and Kathy, your hands are up or down?
Sorry, down.
Mine was actually up.
Okay.
Because all I wanted to say was, after Karen Denver's report to us, it's very clear that Jessica, you and your whole team, Rob and Patty and everybody, your whole new approach to packaging up these cases for the Attorney General's office and everything you do not only is saving money, saving time, and presenting and moving these cases forward in a more efficient manner. So I just wanted to I know this has been a couple of years, only a year or two, of this new whole process, and all through COVID and remote work. So just want to congratulate you. It's clear they're impressed as well. So thank you, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public for enforcement?
Thank you, Mr. Board President. I will open up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public wishes to make a comment, they can type in the comment field and send it to all participants. I will give the co-moderator the controls back so that he may show the instructions as well. And we will give people a moment. All right, I'm not seeing any requests for comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And it looks like we're almost done with our open session here. But I think we need a bathroom break for just really quick. So can we come back in about 10 minutes or so, please? It is 10:55. We will resume the meeting, and we're on agenda item 18D, outreach.
Okay, I'm trying to share. Are you guys seeing the outreach report? No?
It still says meeting in recess.
Maybe the moderator's not back.
This is the moderator. Jessica is the presenter right now, so she should be able to.
Let me try this.
There you go.
It's now?
Yep, it's starting to.
All right. Is it all up? Yep. All right.
Yes.
So this one's going to be fairly quick, as will the next one. This is just a update on how we're doing on our outreach as it relates to the strategic plan. So you'll see the first one is the association meetings. We continue to have active involvement in both associations for CARBDA and for CVMA. So as it was reported in the NPEI DEA issue, we continue to meet with CARBDA and address any concerns that they bring to us. So we are really grateful for their availability in meeting with them. And then I also attended the CVMA Board of Governors meeting in Tahoe and provided updates there on everything related to the board, and then answered any questions that they had. There was always a lengthy discussion on enforcement and what we're doing with the backlog and trying to help with that process. And so, like I said, I think I had mentioned it yesterday, that they really are open to helping with the solutions and what they can do on their end to help educate their members on the importance of communication. And I just really appreciate the open collaboration that we have with both associations. We reported on the increased social media presence. We had even more social media presence than we did from the last meeting. We also always share any information that we receive from other state entities and federal entities. So that included the letter from FDA regarding the misuse of ivermectin. We put that out as well. And then we also, we did a recent unlicensed practice undercover investigation that led to a conviction. We partnered with the DA's office with that. So we put that out. There was a DCA press release for that. So I hope you guys all saw that. And then we also partner with the Office of Public Affairs quite a bit just to develop more things for the public and for our licensees. And there's a couple of samples of things that we just put out there on social media to help protect their pets. They also, if you look at our Facebook page this week, there's quite a bit of graphics that the Office of Public Affairs created for the Technicians Week, and they're pretty cute graphics. So if you guys get a chance to look at that. And then we have the AABSB collaboration, which we touched on yesterday. So I'm not going to go too much into that, but it was really great opportunity. It's always great to collaborate with AABSB. They do provide a really valuable information for us, and we really enjoy the collaboration that we have and our commitment to them to help them spread the word in order to get more people to want to do reporting to AABSB for their disciplinary actions and their license statuses, and being able to work with them to improve our processes as far as getting the interface between our two systems to really help streamline the licensing process. And so we're hoping that once that is final, then we launch it out to all states. Yeah, that way we can be more confident in the data that AABSB is presenting, because right now only 50% of the states are reporting to AABSB, which is obviously concerning because then there could be discipline in other states that we aren't aware of. And so we're hoping that with this partnership, we'll be able to help solve that nationwide. So we're really hopeful for that. For the student liaisons, that's our strategic plan objective 5.6. We did have it on the schedule to actually work on that, have it established next year, but we're early on that, so we implemented it early, and they participated in the meeting. So we're really excited with that one. So that's it for my outreach report. Do you have any questions about that?
I see that our student reps are still with us today, so I'm impressed. Welcome back. I particularly enjoyed there was a picture that was sent out regarding not using ivermectin. I printed that out I resent that to a lot of friends. I thought that one was great. The only comment I had, and I spoke to Jessica about this, it wasn't really our issue, but some of those mass emails that were going out to the licensees, specifically in regards to the waivers, the way they were written was really complicated. It says, on this date, the governor signed a waiver and it was established between this date and this date, and it just went on and on and on. And I understood it because I live in a strange world now with regulation and all that, but I thought it would cause more confusion than not with general licensees. And I think that that's something that DCA put out, not our board. And I probably should have mentioned it to our DCA liaison when she was here. That's my only comment on outreach, other than we still don't have a TikTok page, but that's another issue. Kathy?
That's my bad.
Thanks, Jessica. I just had a couple of comments real quick. One, I saw the Board of Governors meeting is scheduled for the same day as our meeting in January. I don't know if they can change theirs, or maybe it doesn't matter, because I know they usually participate with our board meetings.
That and I usually participate in theirs. So that could be something that when we get to the dates that we could, if the board would like to change them, then we can talk about it when we change them.
Okay. And then secondly, I just wanted to, on the press release, I forgot to mention it, on the press release about the unlicensed activity, a friend of mine who's a vet in New York signed on, gets our press releases, and sent an email congratulating California's team, and says most boards don't do much with these since they can't take a license that doesn't exist. Congrats, kudos to California and your team. So good work, you guys, again. And last but not least, I had to say that the two protect your pets things here, I know they got around because they were posted on my groomer's front door, both of them, during the summer or during the late summer. So people are seeing them and using them, so thank you.
Awesome. Dr. News, I think you're muted.
We can do the strategic plan report and then we'll open it up for public comment.
All right. So this one's going to be fairly quick. I'm not going to go into each one in detail. You see there's a lot that has been completed, many of which has been completed early. There are a few that are delayed, but we have our management team is working to come to a more accurate target goal, and that will be updated at the next meeting. I think even with some of them delayed, I think we had more that were completed than were delayed or are still pending. And even this is a four-year plan. I think we're set to have everything completed by the end of the third year. So we might be having another strategic plan session earlier than later because we will have completed a lot of these things before anticipated. Is there any questions related to the strategic plan? The difference I do want to highlight from the last tracker that you saw, the last one, it was basically, here I'll scroll up, you'll see the tasks that we wanted to complete in order to implement your goal. That what you'll see here though now is more details, specifically what we've done in order to meet that goal. So the whole idea is to have full transparency and accountability, so you guys know exactly what we've done in order to implement your goals that you provided. So, any questions?
Kathy?
Sorry, I do, of course. No, it's not really a question. Comment. Again, I really want to compliment you on this report, format, layout, and everything. I'm assuming the other boards do something very similar, but I don't know. And I just compliment our staff because this is what we should be doing to track the goals. And the way you guys have done this is so detailed. It's really a beautiful board, a beautiful report. And if they aren't doing the same one, you guys should give this to the other boards and teach them how to do it. Secondly, we haven't really discussed Breeze, but I noticed that about 4 of the delayed things on this report are Breeze related. It's kind of stuck in the pipeline of the Breeze changes. I'm wondering, how is that going, and are you comfortable with how they're moving the Breeze tickets that we're putting in and things like that? I think it was like 4 or 5 that I noticed on this.
Yeah, I do agree with you that some of them is limited to the system design and the changes that we have to make. But I'm not concerned about the delay when it comes to Breeze, though, because they are dealing with system changes for all DCA programs who are in Breeze, and there's many, and they have to prioritize based on their resources. I do know that I'm very active when it comes to Breeze and DCA. I serve as the chair of their change control board. And so that means when any big changes have to go through any systems, those requests that every board has goes to the change control board for a review and approval and prioritization of it. And so I'm aware of all of the big requests that are coming through. And if I feel that there's something that can benefit everybody, not only our board, I fight to have that prioritized on a lot entire list than simply adding to the bottom of the list because it was newer. So an example of that is the ability for us to publish our deficiency letters to our applicants, having them be able to see that in their own Breeze account. Right now, that's not a function that Breeze does, but that's something that I think is not only really good for our applicants to see, but also all the applicants in DCA. And so on Monday, we were reviewing, I think there were 45 big system changes that were being asked. And this one would have been put to the bottom of the list, but we were able to move it up to, I think it's at 9 or 10, but it moved up significantly because of the impact it has for all DCA boards. So I have a really good finger on the pulse when it comes to the Breeze changes that are coming through, so I'm not concerned about it.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Members of the public for the last two reports?
Okay, this is the moderator. I've opened up the Q&A panel, and let me give my co-moderator control so he can display the instructions. Okay. All right, so if any member of the public would like to make a comment on these last two portions of agenda item 18, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We do have Grant Miller requesting to make a comment. So Grant, I will give you permission to unmute yourself and you will have 3 minutes. And Grant, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you go. And Grant, you are, yep,
Hi.
there you are.
Yep, good morning. Jessica, I appreciate that you are integrally involved with Breeze and would like to reemphasize our concern that as currently configured, the Breeze system really deters people from reporting illegal veterinary practice just because the system really doesn't have a drop-down menu that's specific to unlicensed activity. And people don't read. No, as you know, nobody reads anything anymore. And so even though the instructions on the Breeze page tell somebody to submit a complaint under a veterinarian, if they're worried about unlicensed practice, nobody does that. And so I recognize that it's going to take a system-wide recalibration of Breeze to reprogram it. But for any of the board members who are unfamiliar with what I'm speaking of, just go to Breeze right now and try to report illegal activity. It's not really possible. It's very hard to do. And so Jessica, I wanted to find out from you what you think the feasibility is of Breeze actually reprogramming their site so that there's a specific dropdown for illegal practice or unlicensed activity. Thank you.
Yeah, so, and I appreciate you bringing that to my attention too, and I think it was a few weeks ago too, and I raised that with OAS and it's on their radar. When it comes to anything changing in enforcement, it goes to what they call an enforcement user group before it goes to the change control board. And I think there's been some delays in those meetings because of COVID, so they haven't had a chance to have active meetings, but it's definitely on our radar and something to fix. But what I do want to note is just if you look at the statistics and just, I think the first 2 months of this fiscal year, we actually received already half of what we received last fiscal year combined. And so I think that you see the huge increase in reporting the unlicensed activity. We've also issued more citations in unlicensed activity as well. So I think that the system definitely should be improved to make it more clear, but we are getting more unlicensed activity complaints than we have in the past.
All right, this is the moderator. I see no further requests for public comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And that concludes all the executive management reports. Last thing I would say is that we have a fantastic staff as seen in these reports, and a shout out has to go to our executive officer. We have a very strong person at the top that allows the team to do a great job. So shout out to you, Jessica. You're awesome. You're doing great. Moving on now to election of officers. Agenda item 19. And that is for president. We'll start with board president. We'd like to open up the floor for nominations. And Dr. Nolan, your hand is up.
Yeah, I would like to nominate Kathy. I haven't talked to Kathy, but I would like to nominate Kathy Bowler if she would be interested in considering stepping up into the president role.
And I've talked to Kathy and I'll second it. We have a motion and a second to nominate Kathy Bowler for board president. Is your hand still up, Dr. Nolan?
I just want to make sure that Kathy accepts her nomination.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm always quick to talk. I didn't know I was supposed to talk then. I do, and I'd be very honored. Thank you. Thank you for the nomination.
Are there any other nominees for the position of board president? All right. Would you like to make a speech, Kathy, or so we just go for the vote? All right.
Do we need to open it up for public comment?
That's what I was just thinking.
Okay. I will open up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public wishes to comment on this agenda item, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions, and we'll give you a moment. All right, I'm not seeing any requests for comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And we can call for the vote.
Ms. Bowler?
That was weird, but aye.
Dr. Bradberry?
Yes.
Ms. Laredo?
Yes.
Dr. Solacito?
Yes.
Dr. Nolan?
Yes.
Dr. Nunez?
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Kathy. Just so you know, I will not be attending your inauguration.
But I'm going to get you a front row seat.
Okay. Well done. Congratulations. Do I have any motions to fill the position of vice president?
Oh.
And Kathy?
Yeah, thank you. Oh, am I muted? No, I'm not. Sorry, this iPad's killing me. I would love to nominate Dr. Christina Bradberry for vice president.
I would like to second that. This is Jamie.
Very good. We have a motion and a second.
Dr. Bradberry, do you accept?
I would be honored to. Thank you.
And are there any other nominations for the position? Seeing none, we can open it up to the public, please.
All right, I am opening up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions, and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And please call for the vote.
Ms. Bowler?
Aye.
Dr. Bradberry?
It does seem weird. Yes.
Ms. Laredo?
Yes.
Dr. Solacito?
Yes.
Dr. Nolan?
Yes.
Dr. Nunez?
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Dr. Bradberry. I will be attending your inauguration, and the two of you will do a great job, I'm sure. Agenda item 12, future agenda items, and next meeting dates. I have the making cannabis legal, the use of cannabis as a future agenda item that was brought forward by Dr. Hazar. And there was a question about RVTs doing procedures outside of the hospital, and I assume that that's in direct supervision and being paid for it. I'm not sure if that's an agenda item or if it's just a clarification. We had some items that went to MDC. And also adding an RVT member to the board, an additional RVT member to the board. Did you capture anything else, Jessica? Dr. Bradberry?
Sorry, you actually covered, yeah, you already covered it. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor?
Thank you. I just wanted some clarification on the cannabis agenda item. I believe Dr. Hazar was requesting the board review a legislative recommendation that veterinarians could recommend the use of cannabis or hemp products to their clients for use on animals. And she did note that Nevada has authorized a recommendation, veterinarian recommendation and administration of cannabis. So I don't know if you want to make that a part of the conversation as well.
I'm fine with that. I think that's good.
Okay, thank you.
And I know that, Kathy, you noted that this conflicts with CVMA Board of Governors meetings. We typically have them on the third week of each quarter. And I don't know if we can, if Dr. Miller is still with us, he can confirm if all of these dates now conflict with CVMA's meetings. Dr. Miller, are you able to know? And if not, then we can work offline and try to figure out how to do this. We want to make sure that we are both able to participate in each other's meetings. Moderator, would you mind unmuting Dr. Miller?
Sure. I've given him permission to unmute himself. There he is.
Yeah, thank you. So let me take a look. I think you're right, Jessica, that they might be pretty darn close. Let me just at least take a look at the January one. Yeah, so yeah, there is an overlap. So our leadership meeting is January 21, 22, and 23. So even though it's on the weekend, there is one overlap day. And of course, this is why it always worked out so well in the past to have MDC on Tuesdays and VMB on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And then that kind of shifted a little bit. So now we have this overlap day, but the Friday is the most important day because that's our actual board meetings. That's when Jessica we would really appreciate her attendance. And then of course your president is also welcome. So,
If we switch to Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, would that solve all the scheduling conflicts?
It makes for a long week for Jessica, but it always used to pretty much work. I mean, that's always how we've done it, but I don't know why did it end up that we ended that there was this shift to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't know how that happened.
It just the current composition of the board, it worked better.
Okay. Well, you know, our trouble is that we sign hotel contracts for a lot of these meetings, and so they're set way in advance. And so we really want to try to work as much as we can with you, but we're a little bit stuck with with our scheduling.
Well, if our meetings start to go hybrid or live, we'll have scheduling hotel contracts too. But did you have something to add, Kathy?
No, I do recall when we made the change scheduling wise, but I was just wondering if we could poll the board now. I know we're missing Judy and Diana, but just see if Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday would work back again, if that works for the staff. Jessica, I leave that to you.
Yeah, that works. My weeks are always long, so this changes.
I think it was Christina, Dr. Bradberry.
Yeah, it works for me. That's fine.
Okay.
And Jennifer, you have some limitations because of teaching and everything too, so. Or you did, I thought.
I don't have any comment.
So I think what I'd like to do is, if it consensus from the board that that's okay, then I'd like to reach out to the MDC members as well, because it's going to impact their day. So without any strong objections from them, we can go ahead and finalize it. But I'd like to leave it kind of tentative right now and make sure that I can bring it up with the MDC.
Can I just, I think Jennifer, it was better for her to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday before, but I'm concerned that she's now moved her schedule to accommodate this schedule and it's already set in advance. So I guess that would be my concern with, I mean, maybe this one meeting if she's already done that, but go back to what's best for her, because we really kind of left her out in the, made it really difficult for her with the change that we made.
I appreciate that, Dr. Bradberry. And in all honesty, it's difficult for me no matter what days it is. As I communicated with Jessica, I didn't know until about 11 p.m. the night before the MDC meeting if I was going to be able to attend. So it doesn't make that much of a difference. So I will hopefully figure it out no matter what days the meetings are.
And how many committees are you on right now, Jennifer?
I'm down to 23.
Okay, that's good. We'll just plan the meetings around you from now on, I think. So
Get me a second RVT on this board and it won't matter.
Okay. So we'll
or
have.
You could just clone yourself.
That's, yeah. So Jess is gonna find out if that's a solution to that scheduling. Do we open agenda item 20 to the public, or can we recess open session now?
Nope, we have to take public comment.
Okay.
Okay, I am opening up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions, and we'll give you a moment. All right, I'm not seeing any requests for comment. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And now we're at agenda item 21, recess open session, and we're going to convene closed session after that. When we come back into open session, there's no further business to cover. So if members of the public, there's nothing else that's going to happen in open session when we come back. And so let's recess open and convene closed session, please.
All right, this is the moderator, and just a little bit of housekeeping I have to do. I just stopped the recording. I'm now locking the event, and then I'm going to be